Hi there, and welcome to my TED Talk. I've been wanting to introduce a talk like that for a long time, so thank you for joining me today. My goal today is to share with you a little information about reaching the full professor, the rank of full professor, if you're a career line faculty member. I've been with the University of Utah and the College of Nursing for 20 years now, and for a number of years I've worked on our career line reappointment and promotion committee. And what I see a lot is that people don't move up for promotion, I think really due to kind of a lack of understanding about how this process works. So this is not a talk for tenure line faculty. Tenure line faculty have some very specific timescales and benchmarks that they are required to achieve as part of getting tenure. And so the process is a little bit more clearly laid out for a tenure line faculty member. But if you're on the career line, this can be a little bit more overwhelming and confusing, in part because you have so many options and so many choices to make. So my goal today is to distill this down into a table that just helps you understand the framework. And from that, you can use that to sort of help guide you to make decisions. So the first thing to understand is that the regulations are developed by the greater university, and those can be found at the regulations library on the web, and they're very generic. So they cover everybody in every single department across campus, from philosophy and English to that academic health sciences center. Each appointing unit, so that can be a college, a department, or a school, can then write their own specific criteria that describes what their expectations are as far as promotion. And there's some differences and nuances, and I'll point out some differences between nursing and medicine just as an example. But you'll certainly want to be familiar with your own appointing body's policies and criteria regarding your own promotion. So again, this is very generic. But the generic kind of understanding, I'm going to create this into a little table. There are 4 traditional areas of accomplishment on a campus. Really, the 3 traditional ones, and then one that's unique to academic health sciences in terms of clinical practice. So traditionally, there is teaching or education. For us, this can take many forms. It's not just classroom teaching. It may be precepting students in a clinical setting. It may be mentoring students in a research setting. It may be just working on curriculum committees in a leadership role. So, but most everybody that works here is going to have some aspect of their work that is teaching, since that is the main mission of the university overall. But what that looks like varies a lot from department to department. Scholarship is the next kind of traditional area of accomplishment. And again, in our setting in health sciences, this can include many forms. It can be traditionally as research, but it could also be team science or quality improvement or development of technical writing or technical products. And then also typically includes kind of durable education or durable materials that would go out to patients or to our peers. So again, there is some crossover there where material that you produce might be seen as patient education material and be considered as scholarship, or that could also be clinical practice. So there's some gray areas in how our work gets evaluated here. The third traditional area is service. This is typically service to the missions of the university. But again, this can vary in terms of its impact. So it may be service to your immediate work group, or to your department, or to a college, or to the greater university, or beyond that in professional professional organizations, both statewide or nationally. So again, that impact can get larger. And then the part of our job that is kind of unique in academic settings is the clinical practice. So for some people, this is the bulk of, or maybe all of, what your job is about. And for other people, it may be just a component of maintaining licensure. So that is really variable, and it's typically not required in that it's not required by the greater university regulations. And I think that's one of the things that makes our jobs here a little confusing, because we have so many options of career opportunities. So those areas of accomplishment are then measured, and work is evaluated in really broadly 2 categories: excellent or effective. There is a category for not effective, but we're not going to really talk about that today, since that's not going to happen. And then I'll point out a place where the College of Nursing, for example, has divided their excellent category into two metrics. One is excellent and one is very good. From the university's perspective, both of these would be considered excellent. And the difference between excellent, including very good, and effective is one of scope and impact, and kind of the durability of one's work. So everybody that works at the university is expected to be effective, and work that has greater impact is then considered to be excellent. So yeah, as I said, the scale, the outcome, the impact, and the durability. So let's look at this in the little tables that I promised you. So here are the ranks on the y-axis: clinical instructor, assistant, and associate professor, and then full professor. So clinical instructor is a rank that we usually don't expect people to stay in very long. It's really just established for people who are finishing some last training and but are qualified to be faculty. They should have the potential for academic development. And it's, typically, as I said, not a place where we expect people to stay, and they're usually moved pretty quickly to an assistant professor. However, if one stayed in that role, they're really no longer any, they're expected to be effective at what they do, but there's less requirements for that. Across the board at the assistant professor level, somebody is expected to be effective in all the assigned areas of accomplishment. And so that is that your impact is fairly local, but that your work is effective. And that is fairly consistent across all departments. In the College of Nursing, then, we start to use this very good category, where the expectation is that people's work has an impact beyond their immediate work group in the primary assignment. So again, that varies. It might be teaching, it might be investigation, it might be clinical practice. So that is that it has some impact beyond the immediate work group, but maybe not maybe far afield, and then effective in everything else. And then again, in the College of Nursing, as one moves up, the expectation at full professor is that you're excellent in your primary assignment and very good in everything else. So this is one example of how a department puts this together to meet their specific needs. This is sort of what the School of Medicine criteria looks like in a different table. So they don't break this down as in excellent and very good. They just are using the traditional effective and excellent categories. So again, you can see this similar progression. At the assistant professor level, you need to be effective in all of your assigned areas. To reach associate professor, then you need to be excellent in 2 aspects of your work. So that could be teaching, investigation, service, and clinical practice. But then you need to be effective in the other 2 or the other 1, depending on how your assignment, but depending on what you do. You can see that to reach full professor, that doesn't really change. You need to be excellent in 2 areas and effective in the others. But the difference is that you need to have this sustained and substantial contributions. I think their guidelines reference having been there for at least 5 years. So you can see a little bit of nuance and difference in how these departments do this, where this needs to be excellent in 2 areas, and the College of Nursing is excellent in 1 area, but it's really excellent in all of them, because that very good category is a little bit, spans a little bit somewhere between effective and excellent. So this is, I think, where some of the confusion lies for people seeking promotion. But I'm hoping that this at least gives you some framework for that. So lastly, I'm going to just indulge in a minute of advice. I think one of the great privileges of working in academic health sciences is that we have a lot of options in our work. So as we looked at those areas of accomplishment, in addition to being an excellent provider, and an excellent teacher, and an excellent investigator, and being involved in service on behalf of our college and our department, it's easy to get spread too thin. And so your career in academic medicine really does become a little bit of a quality-quantity trade-off. And so my advice to anybody, and the advice I wish I'd received as I was starting out, is in those early years when you're at an assistant professor level, try on all the different things, say yes to lots of opportunities. But as you begin to want to move into the associate professor and professor ranks, it's probably important to begin to look at those areas of accomplishment and think about the ones where you feel like you have the potential to have an impact beyond your department or appointing unit, and focus on those and begin to turn down some opportunities in other areas so that you can achieve excellence in the areas where you need to reach promotion and not spread yourself too thin. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I hope you'll be able to stay for a minute for questions.